My name is Serena Blake, and I'm 29 years old. If you had asked me a year ago what my future looked like, I would have painted you a picture of white lace, a grand hall filled with laughter, and me walking down the aisle toward the man I thought I'd spend forever with Cole Whitmore, 27, my fiancé of 4 years. I had done everything right, or at least I thought I had. Worked extra hours, skipped vacations, and tucked away nearly $35,000 just so we could have a wedding that felt like ours. Not extravagant, not flashy, but meaningful. Something that reflected us, not his parents' obsession with appearances. The plan was simple. A historic mansion I'd fallen in love with the first time we toured it. Its ivy-covered stone walls and warm chandeliers felt timeless, like stepping into a living memory. We had the photographer booked a woman whose art captured emotion instead of forced smiles. We had a jazz band, a florist the works. Every contract, every deposit carefully placed under my name because I was paying for it. And for a while, Cole seemed happy. He'd squeeze my hand when I showed him flower arrangements, kiss my forehead when we chose songs for the reception. He wasn't detail-obsessed, but he seemed content to let me take the lead. I thought we were aligned. Then his parents got involved. It started as an offer. His father, Leonard, wrote a check for $40,000. Just to ease the burden, he said with a smile that didn't reach his eyes. His mother, Rowena, nodded, adjusting the string of pearls at her neck as if the gesture alone was an announcement of their wealth. But their definition of help quickly became hostile takeover. The mansion too rustic. They insisted on moving everything to their country club. The guest list tripled overnight because apparently business associates counted as family. My photographer, too artsy, Rowena, declared, insisting instead on a family friend who specialized in stiff, lifeless portraits. I tried to push back, but every time Cole pulled me aside. "Babe, they're paying now," he whispered one night while we argued in the driveway. "It's only fair they get input." Input is one thing I snapped. They were erasing everything we planned. He sighed, his shoulders sagging like he was caught between two tides. "They wrote a check for $40,000, Serena. You can't expect them to sit quietly while we spend it." I remember the sting of those words, sharp and final. My heart sank, but outwardly, I forced a smile. "You're right," I told him. "If they're paying, they should have the final say." Inside, though, something broke. Because here's what Cole, and certainly his parents, didn't realize: every contract was still in my name. Every deposit, every agreement, every vendor contact. Their money was nothing but reimbursement checks floating through my carefully laid plans. And if they wanted final say, then they could have final responsibility too. I didn't feel anger in that moment, not even sadness. Just a cold clarity, like a pane of glass, sliding into place. For months, I'd been overlooked, pushed aside, treated like a guest at my own wedding. But if Cole and his parents truly wanted control, I was prepared to give them all of it, every cent, every signature, every ounce of stress that came with it. That night, as I sat at the kitchen table flipping through contracts and balance sheets, I felt a strange calmness wash over me. I was about to do something that would change everything, maybe even end everything. But for the first time in weeks, I felt like I was reclaiming my power. The storm hadn't hit yet, but I could see it on the horizon, and I wasn't planning to run from it. The next morning, I woke up with a heaviness in my chest, but also with clarity. My phone buzzed with notifications, emails from vendors, reminders about deadlines, and a string of unread messages from Cole. I ignored them all. Instead, I spent the day making calls. "Good morning, this is Serena Blake. I'd like to update the responsible party on my wedding contract." Over and over, I repeated the same words. The venue coordinator, the florist, the band, the caterer. Every single vendor I had carefully selected. To my surprise, most of them were understanding, even amused. "Oh, the Whitmores," the venue coordinator said, her tone sharp with a hidden smirk. "We've dealt with them before. This should be interesting." By the end of the day, I had a tidy stack of paperwork neatly arranged in a leather folder. Every contract transferred, every deposit recorded, every payment schedule outlined in black and white. It wasn't sabotage. It was respect in the most literal, brutal way. If they wanted to run the show, then it was only fair they were the ones holding the strings and the bills. That evening, I drove to Cole's parents' sprawling estate. The Whitmore home always looked like it belonged in a magazine. Perfectly manicured hedges, marble columns at the entrance, and the kind of silence that makes you feel like you should apologize for breathing too loudly. Leonard answered the door. His silver hair was slicked back, his tailored shirt crisp. He eyed me like I'd shown up to the wrong house. Serena, we weren't expecting you. I know, I said, my voice steady. That's the point. Before he could respond, I placed the folder in his hands. Since you and Rowena are paying for the wedding, and since you want the final say, it makes sense that you handle the contracts too. He blinked confusion, creasing his forehead as he flipped through the papers. What is this? Transfer paperwork, I replied. Venue catering, flowers, band, photographer. They all need your signature and your credit card by Monday, or they'll cancel. Rowena's heels clicked against the marble floor as she appeared behind him, her eyes narrowing. Cancel what? Your wedding, I said, calmly, folding my hands in front of me. Congratulations. It's all yours now. For a split second, there was silence, just the ticking of the ornate grandfather clock in the hall. Then Rowena snatched the folder from Leonard's hands, her eyes darting over the fine print. These say we're responsible for all deposits and damages, she hissed. Correct. But you already paid deposits. I smiled sharp and thin. Consider them my wedding gift. You've got about $70,000 in outstanding balances due in the next 6 weeks. Payment schedules are inside. Good luck. Leonard's face flushed purple. 70,000. That's insane. No, I said evenly, meeting his eyes. That's what happens when you triple a guest list and demand orchids instead of roses. When you trade an intimate dinner for a yacht club spectacle. This is the wedding you wanted, Mr. Whitmore, not me. Before they could sputter another word, I turned on my heel and walked back to my car. My heart pounded, but my hands didn't shake. Halfway home, my phone buzzed. Cole. Serena, what the hell did you do? His voice was a mixture of panic and anger. I respected your parents' wishes, I replied smoothly. They're paying. They get the final say. Now they have the contracts, too. You can't just dump this on them, he shouted. Why not? You said yourself it's their wedding now. There was a pause on the line, heavy with realization. You're being petty. Maybe, I said. Or maybe I'm just finally letting them carry the weight of the crown they fought so hard to wear. I hung up before he could answer. For the first time in weeks, I slept soundly, because whether Cole liked it or not, the Whitmores were about to learn what final say really meant. And the storm was only beginning. By Thursday morning, the cracks had already started to show. The first call came from the venue, the coordinator. Rebecca sounded almost apologetic. Serena, just letting you know Mr. Whitmore's credit card declined for the $5,000 installment due tomorrow. I only reached out because you were the original point of contact. I leaned back in my chair at work, staring at the ceiling. Not my contract anymore, Rebecca, but thank you for the courtesy call. Her pause was laced with amusement. Of course, just thought you'd like the update. And that was only the beginning. By lunch, my phone had lit up with frantic texts. Rowena's messages came in all caps, a storm of indignation. You will pay for this. How dare you humiliate our family? Your little game is over, Serena. Leonard followed with a voicemail so loud I had to hold the phone away from my ear. Return those contracts immediately. You're sabotaging this wedding. This is fraud. I played it twice, then deleted it. That evening, Cole showed up at my apartment. He didn't knock. Gently, his fist rattled the door until I opened it. His tie was loosened, his hair a mess, his eyes bloodshot with sleeplessness. You've got to fix this, he said, pushing his way inside before I could stop him. Fix what, I asked, coolly crossing my arms. You know what, my parents are drowning. The caterer is demanding full payment. The florist is asking for $15,000 because Mom upgraded everything to orchids. And the band... He dragged his hands down his face. Serena, they're saying they won't play without a second installment. I tilted my head. And that's my problem. How? His jaw dropped. How can you be so cold? I took a step closer, lowering my voice. Do you remember what you told me in the driveway they're paying now? They get the final say. Those were your words, Cole, not mine. He looked at me like I'd just struck him. You twisted it. No, I said. I honored it. I respected it more than you did. They wanted power. They have it. They wanted control. It's theirs. With every last bill attached. He sank onto my couch, his shoulders slumped. For a moment, he looked less like my fiancé and more like a little boy who'd lost control of his own toy. Do you even care if this wedding happens? He whispered. I didn't answer. Because the truth was, it didn't feel like my wedding anymore. Not since his parents had barged in and remade it in their image. The silence stretched heavy and suffocating. Finally, Cole stood, his face hardening. If this all falls apart, it's on you. Everyone will know it. Good, I said quietly. Let them know. He stormed out, slamming the door behind him so hard the frame shook. I sank onto the couch he'd just vacated, my chest rising and falling with the aftershock. A part of me wanted to cry, to scream, to beg him to see me, really see me. But another part, the part that had been silenced for weeks, felt a quiet satisfaction. The Whitmores wanted their spectacle. They could choke on it. I poured myself a glass of wine, set my phone on silent, and stared out the window at the city lights. Each blinking light felt like a countdown ticking away toward the inevitable implosion. And deep down I knew this was only the first ripple. The tidal wave was coming. The Whitmores didn't waste time. By Monday, I received a certified letter in the mail, thick official, with my name stamped across the envelope like a warning. Inside was a letter from Leonard's attorney. The words were cold, clinical fraud breach of contract damages incurred. They demanded that I return every contract to the Whitmores and reimburse them for financial distress. I almost laughed. That night, I called my friend Marcus, an attorney I trusted. I slid the letter across his desk, and he read it slowly, a grin forming as he turned each page. "Serena," he said, finally leaning back in his chair, "this isn't fraud. You didn't trick anyone. You handed over contracts with full disclosure they signed, and they accepted the financial responsibilities. If anything, you did them a favor by making everything transparent." "So they can't touch me?" I asked, though a part of me already knew the answer. "They can scream, they can threaten, but legally they don't have a leg to stand on." Relief washed through me, but it was quickly replaced by anger, because even if they couldn't sue me, they could still destroy me in other ways. And that's exactly what Rowena set out to do. By Wednesday, whispers had begun. A coworker pulled me aside at the office. "Serena, someone's saying you stole wedding money, that you're controlling." My stomach twisted. Rowena's fingerprints were all over this. She knew exactly how to wield her influence, the country club circles, the whisper networks, the carefully crafted lies. In her version of the story, I was a manipulative woman who wanted all the control, who stole her son's happiness out of spite. She painted me as a middle-class nobody desperate to climb into their wealth. It stung not because I cared about her opinion, but because I saw the doubt flicker in Cole's eyes the next time we spoke. "Mom says you're trying to ruin everything," he told me, voice low, like he wasn't sure if he believed it or not. I looked at him, searching for the man I thought I loved. "And do you believe that, Cole? Do you think I spent years saving, planning, and dreaming, just to burn it all down for fun?" He hesitated. That hesitation hurt more than any insult Rowena could throw. Meanwhile, the practical fallout kept piling up. I got a call from Fatelli's, the little Italian restaurant, where we'd booked the rehearsal dinner months ago. The owner's voice was irritated. "Ms. Blake, we haven't received a head count or payment. Is this event still happening?" My chest tightened. Rowena said she canceled it. "She didn't," he said flatly. "Reservation is still active. But if it's the Whitmores handling it now, I'll need full payment up front. We've had bad history with them." I closed my eyes, pinching the bridge of my nose. "Give Leonard Whitmore a call. He'll handle it." The man chuckled bitterly. "Good luck with that." Each call, each message, was another brick crumbling from the Whitmores' carefully built facade. Vendors were refusing to work with them. Bills were stacking up. Their reputations, once untouchable, were starting to rot. And through it all, Cole kept calling me, his tone swinging wildly between pleading and furious. "You're ruining my family." "Please, just take the contracts back." "Serena, you're supposed to be my partner, not my enemy." But I was no one's scapegoat. One night, as his voice cracked through the phone, I whispered the truth. He refused to face, "I was your partner, Cole, until the moment you chose them over us. You didn't lose me because of contracts. You lost me because you let them erase me." I hung up before he could reply. And for the first time, I realized I wasn't fighting to save the wedding anymore. I was fighting to save myself. By Friday, the implosion was unavoidable. The venue canceled. The caterer threatened legal action. The band, tired of endless unanswered invoices, quit outright. Even the florist demanded full payment in advance, unwilling to risk another Whitmore tantrum. Every vendor the Whitmores touched seemed to recoil like they'd been burned. My phone lit up during a meeting at work. 27 missed calls, 62 text messages, 3 voicemails. I silenced it, slid it into my desk drawer, and let the chaos play itself out. When I finally checked, one message stood out. Cole's voice ragged and desperate. "It's over, Serena. The wedding's off. Are you happy now?" I should have felt crushed. Instead, I felt lighter, like I'd been holding my breath for months and could finally exhale. But the storm wasn't finished with me yet. That Saturday morning, Leonard himself showed up at my apartment. I opened the door to find him looming there, his expensive suit wrinkled, his composure cracked. "You destroyed my son's wedding," he barked, his voice echoing in the hallway. "No," I said calmly, gripping the doorknob. "You destroyed it when you turned it into a power play. I just let you hold the crown you demanded." Rowena wasn't with him, but I could almost hear her venom in his words. He stepped closer, his eyes narrowed. We were trying to give him the best. The best, I scoffed. You were trying to show off for your country club friends. The wedding Cole and I planned our wedding was perfect for us. You made it about you. His jaw clenched. You vindictive little... I raised my voice sharp and cutting. You have 5 seconds to leave before I call the police. For a moment he froze as if the weight of my words caught him off guard. Then, with a muttered curse, he turned and stormed down the hall. His parting shot echoed back at me. You'll regret this. I doubted it. That evening, Cole came. No pounding fists this time, just a quiet knock. I opened the door, and for a moment I saw the boy I fell in love with, the softness in his eyes, the uncertainty in his voice. Serena, please, let's just fix this. I shook my head. Fix what, Cole? The wedding. Or us. He didn't answer, and that silence told me everything. I stepped aside, letting him look into my apartment, into the life I'd built, without his family's shadow pressing over me. You were supposed to stand by me, I whispered. Instead, you stood behind them, every single time. His mouth open closed, no words. Finally, I asked the question that had haunted me for weeks. Are you even my fiancé anymore, or just your parents' messenger? The silence between us was heavier than any argument. He didn't deny it. He didn't fight for me. And that was the moment I knew. The wedding wasn't the only thing ending. I was done. I closed the door softly this time. No slam, no final shout, just the quiet sound of a chapter shutting for good. On the other side, I heard him exhale shakily, then his footsteps retreating down the hall. I leaned against the door, my heart pounding, but for the first time in months, it wasn't with fear or dread. It was with certainty. The Whitmores had lost their wedding. Cole had lost me. And I had finally found myself again. In the weeks that followed, the Whitmores' empire of appearances collapsed piece by piece. Word spread quickly in the vendor community. Rowena had unleashed her fury in a flurry of emails, accusing the photographer of conspiring with me, the caterer of price gouging. The band of being unprofessional hacks. Screenshots circulated in private Facebook groups. Whispers traveled through banquet halls and florist shops. Soon, the Whitmore name was blacklisted. No venue wanted them. No vendor would take their calls. Cole called me once more, his voice tired, worn down. No one will work with us, Serena. Mom's been banned from 2 vendor groups. We can't even book a bakery. I closed my eyes, feeling both pity and justice. This isn't me, Cole. This is your mother. This is your family. They did this to themselves. There was silence on the line. Then he hung up. Days later, I learned through a friend that the country club had withdrawn their availability after Leonard disputed a non-refundable deposit, a man who owns car dealerships pretending not to understand how deposits work. The irony was almost too much. And then the final blow came. A message from Jade Cole's old friend who had always been kind to me. Hey, heads up. Cole's engaged again. To his ex from college. They're planning a destination wedding in Hawaii. His parents are thrilled the girl's family owns hotels. I stared at the message for a long time, then let out a breath I didn't realize I'd been holding. 3 weeks after our implosion, Cole had already slipped neatly back into his parents' mold. And this time they were getting exactly what they wanted, another family wealthy enough to play their game. The Cole I loved was gone. Maybe he'd been gone long before the contracts hidden under his parents' grip. It hurt, but in an odd way it freed me, because I realized I had dodged a bullet. The $15,000 in deposits, I'd lost tuition for a masterclass in self-preservation. I'd bought my freedom from a lifetime of being silenced, sidelined, erased. A few weeks later, Rebecca, the venue coordinator, who had been so amused by my contract handoff, called me again. Her voice was warm, almost conspiratorial. Serena. I know this is awkward, but I wanted you to know, the couple who took your date, they're lovely. They couldn't afford a Saturday before, but your deposit made their dream possible. They're so grateful. Thought you should hear that. For the first time in months, I smiled. Genuinely smiled. That night, I poured myself a glass of wine and sat by the window. I thought about Cole, about the Whitmores, about the wreckage I'd walked away from. And I thought about the life ahead of me, unclaimed, unmanipulated, wholly my own. I wasn't broken. I wasn't ruined. I was free. And if Rowena was somewhere hate-scrolling through social media, seething at the story of how her daughter-in-law that never was had gone viral on TikTok, well, that was just karma finishing what I started. I whispered the words to myself, the same ones Cole had once used.